This video will provide tips on how to determine whether the information you find online through search engines or other means is credible and fact-based. While the ability to search for solutions that have demonstrated success in other cities by using 21st century technology is a tremendous advance, that same technology has also led to the spreading of fake news. This is information that people make up deliberately, not simply opinions about which we may disagree. And even where news is not fake, there are many items on the internet that are simply misleading. It is critical that you learn how to make sure that the information you're using passes the basic test of veracity. Your power to get results rests on the factual basis of your research. If the research you present to a governing body, a journalist, or the public is misinformation, your credibility will be severely damaged. So let's now look at a number of ways to avoid getting tricked. Let me give you 10 tips for weeding out misinformation and fake news. Tip 1. Be sure to look for sites with a history of publishing credible information that are often cited by established organizations, such as major news outlets, independent think tanks, and high-quality academic institutions. Tip 2. Check to see if the site you are researching publishes corrections to its stories.
No publication, no matter how reputable, has a perfect record of accuracy.
Retractions and corrections show their editors value facts. Tip 3. Find out if the site is referenced favorably by established opinion leaders, either nationally or in your state and community. Do searches on Google, Facebook, and Twitter to see what kind of conversations are taking place about the site you're looking at and if it is trusted. Tip 4. If you are unfamiliar with the site you're looking at, check to make sure it's not listed on Snopes.com list of websites known to promote misleading news. Again, that's Snopes.com. Tip number 5, check out the expertise of the article's author. This is particularly important on stories with a lot of technical information. Sometimes news organizations assign inexperienced journalists to beats that require specialized knowledge, like court reporters and science writers. Do some research into their backgrounds to help you rate their experience. Most will have LinkedIn accounts and social media accounts. Check and see if their reporting experience or academic history exhibits competency in the area of reporting, or at least check and see if they have a high competency as a reporter. Tip number 6, check out the sources that the article uses as supporting information. Online stories often contain links to primary documents, other news stories, personal testimonies, or statements on behalf of an institution. If a quoted source contains a link, check to see if the linked story corresponds to what the story is reporting. If the source is a quoted individual, do a web search to find out other stories quoting this person. Find a company bio on the individual or look at their social media profiles. Tip number 7, be at least somewhat skeptical of articles that are dominated by anonymous sources. Anonymous sourcing is a standard practice in journalism to protect a source who may be at risk if he or she talks on the record. Sometimes individuals remain anonymous to avoid accountability and to provide cover when passing false or misleading information. It is especially important when evaluating an article based on anonymous sources to be sure it is coming from a credible outlet and a credible reporter. Tip number 8, be skeptical of sensational headlines. Headlines are often purposely provocative or vague to compel the reader to click on the link. This is because the business model of many online news websites is based on pay-for-hits advertising. The more impressions an article gets when more people click on it, the more money the organization raises from the ads displayed on the page. Chances are that the story is less sensational than the headline implies. Remember, the headline is not the full story. Take the time to read the whole story and see if it is consistent with the headline before drawing a conclusion based on the headline alone. And make sure when you share a story on social media, the headline accurately reflects what the story is reporting, or be sure to note that while the headline is misleading, the story still contains solid and useful information. Tip number 9, note the date when the story was published. When you find articles in your research of an issue, make sure the date of the article reflects present events. If an article is over a year old, there may be a chance that there's more recent reporting that strengthens or weakens the main points in the article. Do further research to see if this is the case. When sharing on social media, make sure the story was published recently enough that it reflects current events accurately. Tip 10. Work overtime to overcome your own bias. Most of us are hardwired to interpret new evidence favorably if it confirms our existing beliefs. This is what's known as confirmation bias. It's just a part of being human, and it's the hardest bias to identify since we are reluctant to doubt our own beliefs. The best way to counter this is to consciously work to remain skeptical of stories that confirm your viewpoint. If you read a story about misconduct involving a public figure you already don't trust, for example, do not automatically assume the story to be accurate. By employing the no blame approach, it'll help you to do this. When you are not looking to place blame on a person or a particular party, your personal bias can be set aside and your full attention can be directed to evaluating the evidence. Using these 10 tips will empower you to ensure that the information you're gathering through your online searches is accurate. This is critical for identifying solutions that can work in your community as well as for being considered a credible, informed citizen. For more in-depth information on media literacy, review the accompanying online materials.